Hi here, Finns here. I'm back for another video, and today I am going to talk about the running order for both semi-finals for Eurovision 2023. I've already talked about the first semi-final, so let's talk about the second semi-final. Semi-final 2 of Eurovision 2023 will contain 16 countries this time, but as always they'll be battling it out for only 10 spots in the grand final. And now we have a running order for semi-final 2, so let's talk about it and review it. So the running order goes like this. We'll be opening the show with Riley from Denmark has been chosen as the show opener, and it will be followed by Armenia, Romania, Estonia, Belgium, Cyprus, Iceland and Greece, and then in the second half we continue off with Poland, Slovenia, Georgia, San Marino, Austria, Albania, Lithuania, and closing the show from down under, it's Voyager from Australia. So, first things first, let's talk about the show opener. Denmark has been drawn to open the second semi-final, and once again, the producers haven't gone down the road of an obvious choice. Now, that obvious choice could have been Belgium, because that's like the big proper banger of the semi-final, like it's the most upbeat choice to go for, but they didn't go for that, and I think it being the only kind of up-tempo, really dancey song in that first half in the semi, I think they kind of needed it to be in the middle of the first half. As I did predict, I told you Belgium wasn't going to open, but no, none of you believed me. I thought it was going to be Iceland. Instead, we go to Denmark instead, which I think it's also a good choice. I think it will bring a lot of younger viewers to this Gen Z kind of audience to watch the semi-finals, I guess, and it is an upbeat number. Maybe not the most danciest of tracks, like it's not the most banger of a track, breaking my heart, but it's still upbeat and it's still uplifting, and I think it's a good choice to open the semi, I guess, even though it's not the most obvious choice to go for. On the other hand, closing the semi-final, Australia, the only Nordic country, no, the only country that's not a Nordic country opening or closing any of the shows. Australia, I said Australia was going to close the second semi-final, and I got it right. You know, everybody says Slovenia. No, it's going to be Australia, and none of you believe me. But I got it right. Australia is going to close the second semi-final, and I think they're going to close it off with a bang. I felt like they were going to close with one of the rock bands, and I never saw it San Marino. Slovenia, I thought, could, but I felt Australia, I think, usually Australia bring good staging, and they're going to bring a show, and it's one of those songs that I feel like that's going to be really exciting live, and they have so much potential for good staging, and I feel like the Australian team have got something good up their sleeve, and I feel like with that song they've got something good to close the show with, and yeah, Australia I'm happy to see close the show. So let's go back to the first half now. Now this really probably was the biggest shock out of all these running orders I've seen. Armenia getting the number 2 spot, I never saw coming. That was a huge shock for me. Now, I know the producers probably want to push a song to qualify in the number 2 spot, but I didn't think a potential semi-final winner would get the number 2 spot. I'm quite surprised they did give it to Armenia, considering I really thought that was going to win the semi-final. But I think this kind of shows that the producers want a country in the number 2 spot to qualify again and to do well. I think they kind of seen last year with Constructor performing in the number 3 spot and still getting top 3. I think they kind of want that similar effect to happen to Armenia to do well in an early draw. And I think if there's any chance of a song to qualify in the number 2 spot, it's going to be with this song. Brunette's got a really good song, and I think, yeah, I mean, I feel like, I don't think it hurt, I think it would have, she would have benefited going on later, but I think she might be invincible, and I think she could still survive the number 2 spot. I do feel quite bad she's given an early draw, but that being said though, I think she can still do well in it, considering I think she can shine the most of where she's sandwiched between. I think I feel more sorry for Romania that has to come after Armenia. I think Romania's got a tougher job of getting number 3 spot compared to Armenia getting a number 2 spot. I think Romania, I kind of feel like we're going to struggle to see in the final this year, even if they change the staging. I think where they've been put between Armenia and Estonia, I think suggests that Romania is probably going to sit out of the grand final this year. So yeah, you got 2 kind of ballads, Armenia and Estonia, in between Romania. Oh, well, not between Romania, you know, one after the other. Estonia I got right, Belgium I got right. I think Estonia and Belgium next to each other is a nice contrast, I say. And then near the end of the first half you have Cyprus, Iceland and Greece. Interesting, they put kind of Cyprus and Greece quite close to each other, considering they're sending pretty much the same song. But they have got Iceland in between them, which is quite a nice, it's a nice sandwich, let's say. You know, I think Deja from Iceland really stands out, being between the 2 sad boy ballads, really, as well. So yeah, so let's move on to the second half. Poland opening the second half. I think you need something a bit out-tempo when you coming after Greece, so it's a nice contrast change to go into Poland. I think the producers kind of think Poland ain't gonna light up the leaderboard, let's say, this year. And if they qualify, they probably will come 9th or 10th at best if they qualify, and get a first half draw and get the number 2 spot in the grand final. Will probably be the best scenario for Poland this year, sadly. Which could happen. It's a televote only system, and the Polish diaspora you can't underestimate. But yeah, and then so you go to Poland, kind of up tempo, kind of bop. Slovenia, indie pop rock sound. Georgia, this big ethnic power ballad. San Marino, a bit funky rock. Austria, a bit quirky pop song. Albania, Balkan ballad. Lithuania, this gospel ballad. And then Australia, another rock song. So it's a nice blend of genres in the second half as well. Maybe better genres than maybe in the first half, where it does get a bit ballady and mid-tempo-y. I think, yeah, Slovenia, I think it's okay where it is, even though it's also an early second half draw. I think Georgia's going to be fine, because I think that stands out where it is, regardless, you know. San Marino, I worry, being sandwiched between Georgia and Austria, might struggle a little. I think, yeah, and then you got Austria, Albania and Lithuania. I think Austria's in a really good spot. I think coming near the end, I knew they weren't going to put Austria and Australia next to each other. I mean, come on. Like, that would be so confusing. It's confusing enough having them both in the same semi-final. It's going to be, you know, when the hosts have to call them out when they qualify. It's like, Australia, you know. So I knew they weren't going to be together, so yeah. Albania's in a nice spot. It's nice to see them a little bit later on in the draw, considering the producers do tend to put Albania, give them early draws, like give them the number 2 spot in the grand final. Maybe that won't happen this year if they qualify and get first off. Touch wood. And Lithuania's in a nice spot, being the last kind of ballady song, and with the Lithuanian diaspora, I think Monica's going to go through. yeah, where she is in this draw, I feel confident now Lithuania's going to go through, and I think she could even come top 5 in that semi-final. Never underestimate the power of the Lithuanian diaspora vote. I mean, come on. They have the UK in their semi-final. But no, I think, yeah. So yeah, I kind of like this kind of contrast of genres as well, and where everything is. So yes, so who's winning it in this draw? Actually, I think Belgium surprisingly didn't, even though they're not opening the show or closing the first half, I think Belgium actually does stand out of where it is. I think Iceland's not too bad actually. I was really worried that they could get swallowed up where they are, but I think Iceland's okay. I think Austria's looking good, Lithuania's looking good, and Australia closing, I think also is in a good spot. Who I think did badly from the draw? Romania. Between Armenia and Estonia, Romania I think will struggle. Who else? San Marino, between Georgia and Austria. And yeah, maybe Poland. Maybe. Greece and Slovenia. Would have benefit being on later, I would say. Overall, few surprises. I think there's questions has to be asked why Armenia got the number 2 spot. I think a lot of Armenians aren't probably going to be too pleased they got the number 2 spot. I think we're going to have a riot on their hands. But hey, if she qualifies and gets second half, she could do a constructor and be the second to last song in the grand final. It could happen. Could happen. But it does wide open about who could win the semi-final now. Because before the running order, I was kind of considering Armenia could win the semi. But now they're being put on really early, I'm thinking maybe they aren't going to win the semi. I mean, I still feel like they're going to qualify. But I do consider, like, are they going to still do very well getting the number 2 spot? I think it's going to be a big test for Armenia. It's going to really be a test, see where the producers did the right choice of putting them in the number 2 spot. It's very interesting they've done that. I really am quite stunned they've done that. But yeah, that's going to be a big test for Armenia, whether they can survive that or not. But yeah, maybe Austria could do it. I think the semi-final is quite wide open about who could win it now. I think Georgia could surprise as well. It's a really wide open semi-final. I mean, it's more harder to predict than the first one, really, because there's a bunch of them that feel like borderline qualifiers and nothing's is granted or certain in this semi. So yeah, prediction-wise, it's going to be a bit of a struggle now. It's all up in the air. But in any case, what do you think of the running order for semi-final 2? Are you surprised as I am that Armenia got the number 2 spot, which I never saw coming? Comment down below in the comment section below, like and subscribe this video, and I'll be back for more content very soon. Until then, goodbye people, goodbye.